Okay, in the last one we left off showing you how you could do some basic floats. So, and if you remember, what we did was we set the gallery so that the overflow was hidden, and we explicitly told the floats how big to be on the list item. So the question is, what if you weren't sure how big you wanted it to be, or this is something we haven't gotten to, but there are such things as dynamic content management systems where maybe you'd want to be able to assign a different class to the parent so that maybe some of the galleries could be, you know, in thirds so that there are 3 columns, and some of them are in, you know, fourths so that there are 4 columns, and so on. Well, what you can do is you can create some different classes. So for instance, let's go ahead. What we'll do is we're going to basically take the element of the width off of the list item itself. And right now I'll just copy this from I'll just comment it out. Okay, and then what I can do is I want to come down to the bottom and I'm going to create, actually I'm going to put a comment in that says parent classes determining child float widths. All right, and so that's what we know is coming next. And what we would want to target is we'd want to target the UL, but not just the UL. We actually want to target the list item that's inside of a UL, but that has a class on it. So let's say that the class on the UL parent is going to be called something. So let's say, for instance, that we want to have 2 columns. All right, so let's just say that we're going to call that 2, and not the number 2, but TWO, because you cannot have a class that starts with a number. You can't create a class name that begins with a number. That's one of the rules. If you wanted, you could do something like, you know, X2 or something like that, or X3 or whatever. But I'm just going to say, for simplicity, I'll say 2. And that means that I'm going to create a class over here that's called 2, right? But the thing is, I can't just create the class that's called 2. I can't just say that I want the width to be 50%, because look what happens if I say width is 50% like this. Then the problem is that the whole list, not just the list items, but the whole list itself only is 50% of the body of its parent, right? And so what I need to be able to do is I need to be able to target the list items that are inside as a descendant of the thing that is applied to class 2, right? And so the way that we can do that is we can say 2 with a space and say LI. All right, and then what that does is it essentially says, okay, any list item that is inside of an ancestor with the class of TWO is going to take 50% on, okay? Pretty straightforward. That's kind of cool. And then you can imagine, let's say that you wanted something then that was 3. Okay, so you had 3 wide, or excuse me, 3 columns, all right? And then in that case, remember, if you divide 100 by 3, you're going to get like 33 point and like never ending 333%. Okay. And then if you might type that and you go, wait, it's not doing anything. That's because I have to come up here and I have to change the class to 3 so that you can see what it looks like. Right. And then now I've got, it's working just the way I expect it to. And so you could copy this and you could paste this. Let's go ahead and do one that's got 4, right? And then in that case, it would be a width of 25%. We could do another one that's 5, and of course that would be 20%. And if you really wanted to go crazy, you could do one that's like 10, but then you're going to start having problems with your text breaking down because your text might be too big for the boxes. So let's just go ahead and stick with that and make sure that these look okay. Or we'll change the UL class to say 4. All right, and you see now it goes into something that's got 25%. And then if I go over here and I change the class to 5, you'll see that I get 5 per row. And so now I've got 2 rows with 5 columns, right? Pretty cool. And it's really simple. And it makes a lot of sense, right? So it means that every descendant list item inside of a class parent of 5, 4, etc. is going to take on whatever that width is. All right. And that's whenever you want to do something that uses standard, and this is going to be a pretty common way of doing it, where all of the items have a standard width. Okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and end this demo. It's a really short demo. If you are confused about any part of it, go back and rewatch it. But in the next one, I want to show you how to do something a little bit more complex where you can make these sort of targeted with different sizes. Okay.